So we welcome all the family and the friends of our most beloved Jerry Rubenstein. We're all here today at this important service to acknowledge a person who was a true hero, someone who inspired all of us through the way that he lived his life, the way that he did all that he could do with all that he had. He would endure, he would fight, he would always keep going. He would always make sure that he chose life whenever he could. But if we just said this about Jerry, that he was just a fighter, a person who pushed, it really wouldn't tell the whole story. Because he was a tough fighter. He gave it his all. But at the same time, that wasn't his personality. He was a kind, caring, patient, loving soul who just wanted the love of the people around him. He was very sensitive, very humble, never bitter or angry, always hopeful and optimistic. He always loved people, and he was always good at understanding the people in his life. He was the best husband, the perfect match for his oh-so-loving wife. He was just the right man to be the father to his special 2 girls. And he was truly so precious to his own family, beloved by his brother and by his sister, his mother, who's here with us, as well as the extended Milstein family, the many of them who loved having Jerry as part of their new family. Besides all of this, he was the most sensitive, kind, patient fighter that we would ever know. And he was seemingly just the right guy for the challenge in life. Someone who would have this rare disease for men that was not common at all for men, and that was not well understood by the world, men's breast cancer. He was the perfect person to be a friend, to be a mentor, to be a hero at the gathering place, a local cancer support group. So he was a simple accountant by day, and he was a heroic, good soul the rest of the time. Jewish tradition gives us a structure for the service, for the funeral service. It tells us why we are here today in particular. And I believe there's 3 reasons to this that we should all keep in mind. The first reason is for the sake of Jerry, that we want him to hear the words that we say today. We want him to hear that the life that he pushed for, that he fought for, all the heart that he gave, that it was noticed. That all of the fight was for good, and he should hear it and know it. And he knows today, as we speak, what we are saying. We're here today to comfort each other. The fact that we lost a man at such a young age, we want to reassure each other that he did so much in his few years. He accomplished more in his years on this world than many of us will accomplish in 120. And lastly, we want him to inspire us, because that's what he always wanted to do, was to inspire people. We want to walk out of this funeral service inspired by who he was. So he should know that we will be bigger and better and do more because of the example that he led. Also, at this service, we think dearly of the mourners at this very hard time. His family, especially his wife, Deborah, for whom this is so difficult. To his 2 kids who loved him so much, Melissa and Nicole. His brother, Ken, and his sister. His mother, his extended family, all of the Milsteins, all of the friends. To Harriet and Nathan and the other people, his friends, through the illness. The people of the gathering place who are affected by cancer and for whom he was their hero. Also, we have a lot of people here today who may not have been to a Jewish service and are a little unfamiliar about the steps that we go through. So we want to make sure that we explain as much as possible. One of the things that might be unusual is the fact that there are people outside with the door open on a very cold day. And so the Jewish tradition is that people who are Kohanim, or the priests, have to be extra careful about being around a deceased person. And they have to avoid being under the same roof as a deceased person. So they want to be part of the service today, but they cannot be in the building at the same time. We have this chapel service, and the chapel service will be followed by a procession to the cemetery. And it's a mitzvah to escort the deceased on his final journey. So if people are able to attend the chapel service, that is wonderful. If they can escort the deceased all the way to the cemetery, that's an even greater mitzvah. We take this time now to say a few psalms in honor of Jerry, And so I first call upon Rabbi Rudin Luria, the rabbi of B'nai Yeshurun congregation, who will share with us a psalm.
מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לו אכזר, בינותיך ירביצני, עמי מנוחות ינהלני. נפשי ישובב ינחני במעגלי צדק למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגיא המוות לא אירא כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינוחמוני, תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צוררי, דשנת בשמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. I just recited Psalm 23 in the Hebrew. You're welcome to join with me in the English. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And speaking on behalf of the other clergy from B'nai Yeshurun and our congregation, we send our heart and our love to your family. I always remember Jerry for his perseverance, his determination, his devotion to each one of you, and incredible power to inspire others, and those upbeat updates that I would get from him, the emails and the calls. And I know that Rabbi Feinstein beautifully opened up with the story that the truth that Jerry is a hero. We throw that word around a lot, whether it's movies or other things, but Jerry is a true hero, an inspiration, and I will remember his goodness, his heart, and his strength forever.
I share with you Psalm 130. Shir hamalos mimamakim karasicha Adonai. Adonai shema v'koili tienes nacha keshuvos lakol tachanunoi. Im avonois tishmarya Adonai miyamod ki imcha haslicha leman tivarei. Kavisi Adonai kavisa nashi v'lidvro hochalti. Nashi l'Adonai meshamrim laboiker shamrim laboiker. Yachel Yisrael el Adonai ki im Adonai chesed v'harbei imo fadus. V'hu yuftei Yisrael mikol avonosav. A song of ascents from the depths I call to you, O Lord. My Lord, hear my presence. May your ears be attentive to the sound of my pleas. If you preserve our mistakes, O God, my Lord, who could survive? For with you is forgiveness, that you may be feared. I put confidence in God, my soul puts confidence, and I hope for his word. I yearn for my Lord among those longing for the dawn, those longing for the dawn. Let Israel hope for God, for with God is kindness, and with him is abundant redemption, and he shall redeem Israel from all of their difficulties. I have the privilege of sharing a little bit about the life of Jerry, but mainly the main privilege will be by his family. You'll hear shortly from his brother and from his daughter and also some close friends. And being the life of a hero, you really can't capture everything. So this will just be small points here. And the family has so much to share and so much to give, and I'm sure that everyone in this audience will enjoy attending the Shiva and hearing from the people who witnessed the life of the hero in the first person. Our Jerry was born Mount Sinai Hospital, the middle child, growing up in Shaker Heights, then Pepper Pike, and attending Shaker Heights High School and graduating in 1981. He always loved history. He wanted to go into history, but he knew too much that it would not be an easy profession to support a family. You can't really make a living as a history professor, he would often say. But he still loved the history. He always studied it and talked about it. And it probably had a lot to do with his own parents, his mother and father and their collecting of antiques, his love of old Americana. He was a really good boy. He did what he was supposed to do. He listened to his parents. He was very studious. He went to the University of Cincinnati, and there he studied accounting and finance. He graduated, and shortly after that, he met the love of his life, Debbie, when he was just 25 and she was 24. He was always a loyal, devoted worker, and until recently, he worked for more than 27 years at the same job at the county courts downtown, really sticking with what was not always an easy situation. We don't always tell a person's courtship stories at the funeral. They're often very beautiful, cute stories, but it's not always what you end up talking about. But if I could ask you the privilege of just telling a little bit about the story of Debbie and Jerry, and you'll see shortly why we feel it's so important to share this story. Jerry used to attend one of the Jewish singles events, which took place weekly. And he was such a good catch. He was the treasure of the events. But he would attend weekly, and he hadn't found the woman of his dreams. He was about to throw in the towel. He was about to call it the last week of attendance at this gathering. That it just so happened circumstantially that Debbie's mother said, "Why don't you go? Why don't you give this event a try?" And she attended by herself. It was not easy to walk into a room with the dancing and with the socializing in a Jewish singles group where everyone probably knew each other for the most part, and she was a new one in the group. And things worked out like they were meant to be. It was a really storybook night that night. They really caught each other's eye, and they realized so fast that they were meant to be together. They came home that night at 1 a.m., and they just had a feeling that something was going to come of this. There's a lot more details, which I won't tell, but basically a week later, that Jerry walked into the house of Debbie's family, and they called it. They said, "There goes your future son-in-law," father said to mother. But why am I telling you about this courtship? Why am I telling you about this amazing circumstance, how these two lovely people met each other? I will tell you in a minute. Just to digress a little bit, we all know that life can be tough. We all know that we haven't found ways to cure disease. We haven't been able to find ways to stop famine, to end wars. But we all know in our own lives that if we look deep enough past the suffering and the pain of life, that there's a lot of sparks that God puts into life that shows that he's still with us, that he's still guiding us, that he still cares very much about what happens to us in our daily ways. We can't always understand the bad and understand the good, but we can see the sparks of goodness in our lives. On Wednesday night, the sparks were flashing all over for Jerry and his family. It was the night of his 30th anniversary party, this Wednesday, 2 days ago. And our Jerry, who was not so good at surprises, he was too pragmatic and practical to make a surprise. He had a big surprise with a gumball machine when he proposed to his wife, and things were a little quiet for that for many, many years. But he decided he wanted to surprise his wife with an anniversary party Wednesday night. His health was not good. He was a resident in a hospice at that time. But with the help of his daughters and family friends, they put together an amazing party with good food and lots of reminiscing. And Debbie and Jerry and everyone else was looking through the album of the wedding pictures, talking about all the good times. Jerry was eating ice cream that he loved, and he fell asleep after a good few hours of one of the best evenings of his life. Then the next morning, he woke up very happy, and he spoke with his wife on the telephone for quite a while. But then, just a few minutes later, a little while later, that was it, the end of his life. His soul had left this world. There is so much to say about an occurrence like this. What would we say if this happened to us? You have absolute awe. How could it happen? It's so amazing. But you think about it a little bit and you say, well, you know what this shows me? It shows me that this was an amazing life and an amazing couple and an amazing circumstance that was meant to be. If this last chapter of their life is so beautiful and so well arranged by God, it must be that this whole thing was part of a master plan. But besides giving credit to the plan of the universe, I give a lot of credit to Jerry, that he really endured, that this story shows that he fought every day to be alive, to be around as long as his kids. And who knows, maybe it was decided years ago that he wasn't meant to live, but he pushed on and he made sure. And he made sure that he made it to his 30th anniversary party with just a few hours to spare. I want to go back a little bit to his life. After that momentous day where they first met, they were married and they set out to make a beautiful life together. His daughter Melissa came along, the firstborn, and it was so amazing for Jerry to have a child. He so badly wanted to be a father and to have children. And his firstborn, his child, a girl, she happened to love Barbies. And Jerry also found a way to play Barbie. He took all the Barbie dolls and he had acts for them and he was funny and acted them out and was so silly. It'd be so easy for a dad to say, I just don't do Barbies, I love my girls, I make sure I get them pretty dresses, but I can't play with a Barbie, that's too much. But that was not the way with him. He always had his connection with his girls. That Debbie wanted the kids to be healthy, wanted the family to stay far away from junk food at all costs. She was very strict about what came into the house. But one of the funniest things for Jerry and Melissa was to figure out what they could get past the security guards at the front gate. And they did pretty well. They had some amazing schemes to get candy and all kinds of sweets into the house that Debbie would never know about. And it's really funny that in recent years, Melissa's good friend, boyfriend, Nathan, carried on this tradition. And we just recently heard that on one of the runs, he must have taken a bag of Reese's Pieces and put it in the snow outside of the house for Jerry to find when he would need it. And Jerry was a person who loved to talk to his girls. He really understood their hearts and their minds. When he would be lifting his weights, which would take hours, you would sit just by the bench and talk with him and share, and he would listen. And Melissa inherited Jerry's brain, his organization. She always knew what to do when things got tough. And she was a very important support to his family throughout the illness. And Nicole, his youngest daughter, she loved her dad very much, and he loved her. Every Sunday morning at about 11 a.m., he would finish his workout routine, and it was time to go on errands. And the two of them went on errands to all the stores nearby, and it seems like the stuff that Jerry couldn't find, Nicole knew exactly where they were on the store shelves. And the girls looked to him for many things. His endurance, his ability to run and run and run was something that they copied, that they followed in, and they both became track and cross-country athletes themselves. And Nicole mentioned how when she was sick, the dad knew what to do and what to say. He could read to her Harry Potter books that she so enjoyed and make her feel a little bit better. And Nicole and Dad had a lot in common. They were both collectors. He loved to collect stuff. In fact, he collected so many Pez dispensers from his candy collection that he was able to turn it in for more than $2,000, at some point. He collected everything that he could get his hands on, and Nicole did this as well. But both Nicole and Dad had something in common, a special trait. They both could endure physically in ways that people could never imagine. Jerry could run miles and miles and miles, even after being so sick, and Nicole could climb mountains vertically, hundreds of feet off the ground. I wasn't too scared when she looked down. Jerry was into exercise. We all knew that. To see the guy with the big muscles, and he wore tank tops sometimes, and he said he was just hot. But we know that he was very proud of the fact that he had his muscles. And of course, we can't be too vain, but I think that as a cancer hero, as a person who inspired people to be strong in cancer, it was one of the best things he could ever do was to get a little more muscle, to show that you can have cancer and you can be a lot tougher than the guy next door. If you went down into his basement, you could see his fanaticism about exercise. I was joking around that it was a man cave. Today everyone has a man cave. A man needs a place to be on his own with his, entertainment systems and with his whatnots. But Jerry was the master of that. His basement was his domain. He had exercise machines all over the place. And it wasn't like the 5-pound weights, the 10-pound weights you can buy at Walmart. It was like 65, 75, 85 pounds. The real stuff, that if you had to be pretty serious about it. And that was where he went to get strong and to get healthy again from his illness. His experience with men's breast cancer was a very difficult one. More than 14 years ago, he was diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer, very uncommon for a man, 100 times less common than for a female. He had the procedure, the removal of the breast tissue, and it was clear for more than 10 years. But unfortunately, as can happen, it infiltrated into the lungs and spread throughout. And he experienced firsthand how difficult it was to have men's breast cancer. He didn't have rights to the clinical trials. All the medications were never tested on men. They were tested on women. Insurance would deny him for many of the key drugs because he wasn't the typical profile of a breast cancer sufferer. He would go for his mammograms at the hospital, at the doctor's office, and they would see his name, and they would call out, Geraldine Rubenstein, because they were so sure that there could not be a man in the office who was having a mammogram that day. And that's what he had to endure, a very difficult, sometimes embarrassing process. He was part of a support group. He started a support group with the Susan J. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation, a support group just for men. But for the first 7 weeks of the support group, it was just him and the person who ran the support group. There were no men who felt confident to be able to come to the support group. It was too much of a stigma to be a man with breast cancer. And then in the 8th week, I believe, he was the only one. And then someone came and then someone left. Then ultimately there were more people. But wherever he went, it was always a closed door. He had to convince people about why it was so important to discuss and to learn more about men's breast cancer. But he wouldn't take no for an answer. One of the most important places in his life was the gathering place, an amazing place for people who are affected by cancer, a place of support for the patients and a place of support for their families. He would never miss a Tuesday night, no matter how he felt, no matter what the weather. He would always go there to be part of the support group. And he was a mentor to many people who had what he had. He mentored a man of just 30 years old who had it. He would call him 2 or 3 times a week to encourage him and to keep him going in the process. He spoke all over the country at different gatherings. And there are pictures of him and Debbie walking down the street very proudly with a big t-shirt that says, "Men have breasts too." It takes a man with strength to wear such a thing. There are tons of articles in the newspaper about him. Recently we were going through the internet searches, and one after another, article after article after article about him and his pursuit to help people with men's breast cancer. There was a writer from the Sun Press, who wrote an article on him, and there was also a series on television which featured different people who were experiencing breast cancer. And they wanted to make sure that they talked about a unique side of breast cancer, which was men's breast cancer. So the reason why we have the video up here is to share with you this unique video presentation. And there's many things you can come out from this presentation. Many of the facts will be the same as we just discussed, but we wanted to share this video with you, his family, because we want you to see the strength. See the strength of a man who only weeks later, who would become so much sicker. You can't imagine by looking at him and his strength what he was going through, how sick he was under the surface, but he was so strong on the outside. Just give them a little while longer, and if it doesn't work out, we can always play it after the other speakers. just no audio. Well, we don't have the audio, but you'll hear him saying about his determination and his hope. How he's always planning on exercising and lifting weights, and how the disease wouldn't stop him. They really wanted to focus on the husband and wife, in particular how they helped each other to keep each other going. And just his hope and optimism is so clear there. That's, of course, his basement and his workout situation. So I think we're going to close there. There's a way to get the link to the video. So if people contact the family, we can make sure you get a link to the video that has the audio so you can watch it. So I just wanted to ask you to introduce now to Ken, his brother, who's going to say a few words on behalf of the family.
Thank you, Rabbi. I just want to, it's hard to follow up this, but I just want to say a few words on behalf for my brother. He was always there for you. He was there for me, there for my sister, my mother, my father, his wife, his daughter, his family, his friends. But, he was the kind of guy, like, always kept my business cards in his desk. Anyone needed a lawyer, he'd always provide my cards. In fact, a couple of times I ran out of cards. I went to him to get my cards. So he was always there for you. He was the one that you always think of the big brother being there for the little brother, but in this case, as much the little brother being there for the big brother. His sister was telling me about the love for music we all have. We all have similar tastes. And she was saying, well, you turned me on to the music. I said, no, I didn't. Jerry did. Jerry had got all these CDs, well, they didn't have CDs, they were albums and 45s back in the 70s. And we were in his room, which he found a way to give a central air just for his room. But, it was really clever. And we were all in beanbag chairs, another 70s staple, and we listened to all the records and 45s that he had. He was also the kind of guy that you could always count on. In anytime I needed my car fixed or I needed advice to buy a car, I'd always talk to Jerry. I wouldn't talk to anybody else before I'd talk to Jerry, and he was always on top of it. He always knew the newest technology, up until while he was in the hospice, he'd give me advice. He also was the only guy that ever could fix my computer right. So he was there for, he was always there for you, for not just for me, but for his entire family and his friends. You could always count on him, and I'm going to miss having my brother. Thank you.
I call upon Harriet Lowenthal, who experienced the disease together with Jerry, and is also a close family friend.
To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which has been planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. Whether from the book of Ecclesiastes or the lyrics of Pete Seeger, which no doubt Jerry may have been a fan, most of us are familiar with some of these thoughts. This adage has followed so many examples that I've carried throughout my life, and I think my life intertwined so much with Jerry's that I'm sure was part of God's plan. Our children, Melissa and Nathan, and their love for one another have been a very special part of my life, one of the things we shared. Whether it was the Ohio State University graduation with his wonderful Nicole and my daughter Alyssa, we shared that as well. I was part of Team Jerry a few years ago at the Gathering Place, a race for the place, along with my children. Little did I know that 1 year later, Jerry and I would be co-captains because I too would have been diagnosed with breast cancer. And that's where our path crossed again when he invited me to the Tuesday night support group at the Gathering Place, and some of our group members are here as well. We celebrated Jewish holidays together with our children. I was immediately welcomed and included into their family. And one of the things that I often will look at in terms of friends and people I know is the love and embrace they give to my children. And you all have done that with us and my son. And then there's my new best friend, Debbie. I'm the annoying friend that she now has. My new best friend, who I've nicknamed One Tough Cookie. This past month has been really difficult, and yet the inspiration has been amazing, just being a part of that journey, including the planning and the execution, flawlessly, I might say, of last Wednesday night as they celebrated their 30th anniversary. Jerry was excited, and I was excited to be part of that planning, and actually the last thing I said to him was, I would plan a party with you anytime. I will read something that was sent to us from the Gathering Place because I think it summarizes how all of us felt. Again, with a sad and heavy heart, I should say we've lost several members this past month. I am sharing with you that Jerry passed away this morning. He and Debbie had a chance to celebrate their 30th anniversary yesterday and be together, which is very special for both of them. My thoughts are with all of you during this time, and I know how hard and sad this is to hear. Jerry was a true inspiration to everyone and showed all of us the importance of living an authentic and meaningful life. And if I go back to the song for just a moment, one of the lines that later reads, "A time to keep silent and a time to speak." Indeed, for everything there might be a season, but doesn't that help us determine when the right moment is, when to keep silent and when to speak? It is important to speak up and share our voices. It is good to participate in conversations, be it at school, at work, or at home, of our opinions and ideas. We can also actively speak up and share positive thoughts and feedback with one another, to say hello when we pass one another, and to ask meaningful questions about the other's days and their interests. By using our voices, we have the potential to make others feel good about themselves. Jerry was that kind of person. He let all of us feel good about himself, and we all know that he spoke up about cancer. And I invite all of you, in Jerry's memory and love, to continue to do the same. Thank you. I'll miss you, my friend.
So I call upon Melissa, his dear daughter.
Dad, you were a simple person. You didn't want for the lavish and the spectacular. It was the simple pleasures in life that made you the happiest. It was the little things that counted the most. When you asked us to help plan your 30th anniversary surprise, you asked us to keep it simple. You wanted to give my mom a single long-stemmed red rose, a single card, and to eat pasta with extra mushrooms for my mom, and just a little sauce for you, some delicious ice cream, and to be surrounded by loved ones. You taught us that it was the simple things in life that were the most important. Loyalty to others, trying to be the best person you can be, believing in yourself no matter what, and going after your dreams in life. Few people knew that you were dyslexic, yet you never let it stop you. You never used it as an excuse when you decided to become an accountant, and you decided that becoming a history teacher wasn't quite as lucrative a profession as you hoped it would be. Other people would have said, "Poor me," but you found a way to overcome it anyway. It's the same drive that pushed you to work out every single day, even though we would complain about all of the tank tops and how you would constantly try to push dinner back because you wanted to do just the extra little bit more. It never stopped you. You were determined. But even though others viewed this as you time, you would always welcome me and Nicole to sit and chat with you through each rep and mile. Even when it was too cold, too wet, too icy, or too hot to run outside, we were always welcome. Most of the time we refused, and the fact that you were always excited to have us is what meant so much. Being surrounded by women for so long, you have unlocked the magic formula. Listen and then give advice. I could talk to you for hours and go on, and you would just let me ramble on and on until you knew that I felt better. These are the moments I will cherish the most. When we say we could really feel it, and when we could become ourselves. You were always one to share a laugh with, even if you were the only one who got the joke. When we were younger and wanted to play Barbies, you wouldn't settle for just helping us dress them up and change their outfits. You always invented storylines and dialogue to go along with them, and they would act out little funny things, and it was hysterical. To you, family was number one. You never worked late hours. You went to as many things as you could. If it was important to us, it was important to you, no matter how small. So many parents forget how much it means to us as children, and I had the luxury of being able to take it for granted. You taught us how being there for all the little moments is so important. When you were re-diagnosed 4 years ago, you changed. You began to speak out on behalf of not only yourself, but also for all those who had been overlooked. You became an advocate and took center stage. You were reluctant. I know it was hard. Because it was right, you did it anyway. You made us proud by doing what was right. They wouldn't listen. They wouldn't accommodate. You refused to accept no. When it came to what you were passionate about, it wasn't in your vocabulary. We know how proud you were of us. You never missed an opportunity to say so. We wanted to make sure that you knew too. When you stood up for those who were unfair, you showed everyone the person you truly are, and we have never been more proud of you. The last few months have been painful. I don't have to tell you that. I know you tried to protect us. I hope you know we tried everything possible to make you comfortable and to keep things as normal as possible, with the addition of a few of your favorite sweets. Just as you fought for what you deserve, I would always fight for you. When Henry, the stuffed animal, came to go on adventures with you, your eyes lit up. It reminded me of my inner child. It's clear where it comes from. You tucked him under your arm and snuggled with him each day and night. And when you petted his furry little head, it brought me back to the times when we would play Barbies together. You were so happy, gentle, playful, and always reassuring. If he would somehow scurry away and he was brought back to you, your eyes would instantly light up again. I promise I will never let that side of me go. And in Henry's equally cute face, I will always see yours. Growing up, we weren't a family that said I love you much. I could never figure out why. However, I came to realize it was because it didn't have to be said, it was implied. I know you wanted to be there for so many more moments, even though you were there for so many. I promise you, you will always be. We promise you, don't ever forget.
We're so grateful that we got to hear from all the special people in his life. And at the risk of sounding redundant, I just want to say, besides an obvious thank you to him for who he was, I think that all of us who knew him should thank his family. Because really, to be such a great man, to be so heroic, to be so strong, you had to have a lot of backing behind the scenes. I think we all know what different people did for him and his family, from all the sides. But in particular, I just want to single out his wife, who doesn't like to be praised. He doesn't always think of herself as super strong. But I just wanted to say that what I learned from you is that strength can come as muscles, but strength can come on the inside. And that while Jerry had a lot of outside strength and inside strength, you have so much inside strength. And that even though on the outside things looked hard, things were painful, and you went through so much, we could all see on the inside how strong you were. I think all the people at Montefiore, they enjoy speaking to the families, hearing their stories, seeing what got them through the difficult illnesses that they've been through. But I think that Debbie was our favorite. Just the way that she talked to our staff and listened to them, and they trusted them. She trusted us, and we trusted her. She was just so open with us. And I think that the way that you trusted us and you were so open was because you were so strong. And I think that as my last words to Jerry, I think that Jerry loved you because he was strong and that he knew that you were strong also. Just our strength comes in different ways. So God should be with you and watch over you. And Jerry should pray for all of us, for his family and his friends, to be strong like he was and to get through the difficult times that we may have before us. Now that we close with the eulogies and the sharing of his life, I wanted to share about the logistics of today. Following today's chapel service, we will recite the memorial prayer at the end. We will stand up and respect and guide Jerry out of the building to the hearse and then in the procession. The interment, the burial location, will be at the Mount Sinai Cemetery, which is on Som Center Road at the intersection of White Road, just by the Metro Park. And then following the burial, the interment, the family will be receiving friends for the Shiva, and that will be at the residence of Holly and Mark Milstein, 4322 University Parkway in University Heights. And that will be starting on Sunday from 1:30 to 4:30 p.m. We will be having an afternoon and evening service at that time. And then again in the evening, Sunday, 7 to 9. And then it will also take place on Monday at 7 to 9 p.m. If people would like to make a donation in his honor, they can do so to the Gathering Place in Beechwood or to the Maltz Hospice House of Montefiore. At this time, I'd like everyone to please rise as we recite the memorial prayer. It was very close to, it's closer to Shabbos at this time of the year. And just by a few minutes, we're a little bit after the middle of the day. And the Jewish custom is that in respect for the Shabbos, and its joy and its happiness, that we do not recite any of the prayers that are more mournful. So we actually skip in the recitation of the memorial prayer. So, in replacement of that, I will be saying one of the Tehillim, which I'll ask Rabbi Nissenbaum to read for us, please. Yeah, so we don't recite Tachanan, we say...
Michtam LeDavid, Shemeni Elki Chasisi Vach. Amart Ladonai Adonai, Oto Tovasi Ba'alecha. V'kdosh Meshe Boretz Hema, V'adiwe Kachatzi Bam. Yibu Atzvosem Acher Moharu Ba'asich Niskeim Bidam, Ava Esa Shmosem Al Sfosoi. Adonai Menos Chelki V'chosi Ato Tomich Goroli. Chavolim Nofli Ban Ima Af Nachla Shafra Oloi. Avarech Adonai Yeshir Atzani Af Leilas Yisuni Chil Yosoi. Shivisi Adonai Lenegdi Samid, Ki Mimini Bal Amot. L'chein samach li be'gel kavodi, af b'sar yishkan levetach. Ki lo sazav nashul yishol l'sitan chasit chol yis shachas, todien arach chaybim sava smachras panecha, nimos b'imincha netzach.
At this moment, we ask the pallbearers to come forward. We're going to have everyone put on their coats. The casket